Maybe turn the light down a bit. Oh, that was good. No, it's good.
Put the other light on.
That's good. That's good. You can turn the other light on, but turn this one off.
Yeah, it's another light.
Yes, good. Okay, that's enough. I'm going to spend some time this evening discussing a very wonderful pastime of Krishna found in the 10th canto Srimad Bhagavatam. We won't be able to discuss the entire pastime, but the preliminary. The pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan are very celebrated for many reasons. One of those many reasons is the intimacy of exchanges that Krishna experiences and Krishna demonstrates in his exchanges with the residents of Vrindavan. And I'd like to share the pastime, but bear in mind there's a very special mood, a mood of intimacy. In the Sanskrit terminology, it's madhurya, or sweetness. Some of you, I think, are from South India, so I'll share a little South Indian story first. One time, in Lord Chaitanya's travels through South India, he spent 2 months leaving Puri, heading in a southerly direction, visiting many places, and during those 2 years, one of the places he visited was Sri Rangam. And the chief priest in Sri Rangam, amongst the so many priests, there's one chief priest, the name was Venkatabhatta. Venkatabhatta invited Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's now the beginning of the rainy season, and traditionally sannyasis will suspend their travel. I know you're traveling throughout many places in South India, but please be my honored guest and stay with me in my home. I have one small son named Gopal, and my wife, and we have nice space. You can stay with us. We request you to stay. Oh, he stayed. And every day he would go see the deity of Ranganath and chant the holy names of the Supreme Lord and dance, literally dance in ecstasy of love of God. And then he would do many activities during the day, and in the evening he would spend with the family, the son, and himself and his wife, and who were the invited others that would come. And one time Lord Chaitanya asked very learned Venkatabhatta a question. The goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, she's known to be most chaste. And yet there's a description of the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, wanting to visit Vrindavan because she heard of the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan, performing rasa dance for the gopis. So she's most chaste, why did she leave? And Venkatabhatta said, well, you know that Krishna and Narayana, they're the same. So there's no lack of chastity on her part to leave the side of, or the feet of Narayana and go to see Krishna in Vrindavan. Lord Chaitanya said, well, that's all right. But she, the goddess of fortune, underwent austerities for hundreds of years in order to enter the rasa dance of Krishna. And she was unable to enter the rasa dance of Krishna. So why did she undergo austerities? She's the goddess of fortune, and Krishna and Narayana the same, and she wasn't allowed to enter the rasa dance. She's the goddess of fortune. So, can you explain? And Venkatapati said, I'm familiar with that narration, but I can't offer an explanation. But I think you can. Could you please explain? So Lord Chaitanya said that in Vaikuntha there is a mood that she, the goddess of fortune, and all the residents of Vaikuntha carry. And it's a mood of veneration, Aishvarya, recognizing the unlimited opulence of Narayana, and they worship him in awe and veneration. Aishvarya Bhav. And the Aishvarya Bhav has no place in Vrindavan because it's Madhurya. So in order to enter into Vrindavan, one needs the mercy of the resident of Vrindavan, not some other qualification. So, therefore, in other words, the goddess of fortune is feeling herself as the consort of Narayana in Vaikuntha, and that mood has no place in the rasa dance, or for that matter, the pastimes of Krishna in general. And so it is also with the image that you see here, Lord Brahma. I was with some college students today, few, and we started speaking about the topics of Bhagavad Gita. I was asked to speak about that. So there are 5 main topics, and one of them is temporary, and the other 4 are eternal. The temporary one is karma. And the 4 eternal ones are the jiva, eternal, Ishvara, eternal, prakriti, material nature. It's sometimes manifest, vyakta, sometimes unmanifest, avyakta, but the prakriti is eternal. The different states, but eternal energy, potency. And time. Time as we know it, in this created realm, is past, present, and future in different measurements of seconds and minutes and hours and days and so forth and so on. For the period of creation is dvi prarardhas. Dvi prarardhas is the day of Brahma. The life of Brahma. And 2 prarardhas, that's the life of Brahma. And then for equal duration is the annihilation. Dvi prarardhas, and then again creation and annihilation. So time moves material nature. So Lord Brahma, every time there's a creation of each of the universes, there's a separate Lord Brahma for each universe. And then for the duration of the universe that Brahma lives, and his life comes to an end, the whole universe comes to an end, the Narayana's potency, or Mahavishnu's potency, Ramadevi, she withdraws the time energy and the whole thing collapses. That's the Vedic picture of creation. So every time there's a creation, Brahma has to be a superlatively qualified living entity. He's a jiva commonly, and he's invested with the potency, Shrishti Shakti, the potency of creation, to create the whole universe. But he has to understand not just civil engineering or mechanical engineering, or electrical engineering, he has to be, you know, the dean of all engineerings. He has to have multiple PhDs. And there's no university to attend. So he gets his qualification according to the Bhagavatam through two things. One is 100 lifetimes of flawless execution of Varna and Ashram duties. Try for 1 hour. 100 lifetimes of flawless execution of Varnashram duties. He's a very qualified person. And he then may take the post of Lord Brahma. But even when he is born, he undergoes this procedure described by Lord Brahma of receiving mantra. 2 mantras actually. One is from the prototype Saraswati, not Saraswati because creation hasn't even happened yet, but the one from whom Saraswati is manifest as the original, the Adi Saraswati. He receives one mantra, and then later from the flute of Krishna he receives another mantra, and he becomes well acquainted with the ocean of truth. He manifested the Vedas within his heart, and from his 4 mouths come the 4 Vedas, and then he does his work of creation, given the ingredients and the intelligence and the engineering skill and everything else. He does the secondary creation, Visarga in Sanskrit. So he's perfectly knowledgeable in affairs of the universe, of everything. He knows how to make mosquitoes. Prabhupada once challenged a scientist, let them make 1 mosquito. And a mosquito, it can fly in any direction and it can reproduce itself. It's very small. Let them make 1 mosquito. But he makes lots of mosquitoes and lots of living entities of different species. And all the variegatedness, he knows in detail how to do it. And he does it, not just theoretical. Perfect in his knowledge of the Vedas. And yet, like this little narration of the goddess of fortune, his mood is not the same as the resident of Vrindavan. So one time, Lord Brahma, he wanted to visit Krishna in Vrindavan. So he came upon his swan carrier from his upper planetary system, visited Vrindavan, and experienced one of Krishna's pastimes that resulted in certain prayers that we're going to begin reciting. And these prayers are from Canto 10, Chapter 14. So he came before Krishna and offered prayers as is shown here. Now, the context is from the previous chapter, chapter 13. Very wonderful chapter. It's the last chapter that Srila Prabhupada translated before leaving this world and gave his purports. So it describes Krishna's pastime in Vrindavan as a young boy. Before he began herding the cows, he was herding the calves because he was really small. He wasn't even 5 yet. The cows were bigger than him, but the calves, he could handle them. And so Mother Jasoda, the description is there as receiving Krishna before he goes out with the cowherd boys. Krishna is very patiently allowing Mother Jasoda to adjust his garland and his buffalo horn and his belt and the items in his little bag of kachoris and other sweetmeats and things. And off they go to take care of the cows. And the description goes that they didn't exactly, they're little boys, they didn't exactly herd the cows or herd the calves They just played. But because the calves loved Krishna so much, they just stayed by Krishna's side. So here's a painting describing what the Bhagavatam, canto 13, or chapter 13 describes. Sometimes the boys would imitate the frogs, like Krishna in the middle here. Sometimes the peacocks, they would spread their tail. Sometimes making the motion of birds flying in the air. Sometimes they'd play a game where they would steal the lunch of one of the boys and then run. And then, this is Madhu Mangal in the middle, because he's a Brahmana, friend of Krishna. He would run after Krishna with his lunch, and Krishna would throw his lunch to another boy, and then he'd run after the other boy, and the other boy would throw his lunch to somebody else. And just like children. Just like children may play, but it's the personality of Godhead enjoying pastimes with the cowherd boys. Sometimes they would rest underneath the shade of a large tree, and Krishna would play upon his flute, and the boys and the cows and the birds and everyone be mesmerized just by the sound of Krishna's flute. It goes on and on for some pages describing the childhood pastimes when Krishna would go to the forest. And on one particular day, as the boys were traveling around Govardhan Hill, they saw something quite unusual, because they were used to this path every day. They saw this humongous cave right in the middle of the path. And they said, "We've never seen a cave here before, but let's go and play inside." So in that playful mood they went inside, but as they started going inside, they smelled this bad fishy smell. And then they realized, this isn't a cave, this is a giant serpent. This bad smell is the food that he had eaten. It smelled bad. But anyway, it's a nice place to play, and Krishna will always protect us, so let's go. And off they went into the mouth of Aghasura, demon. And the description is there that Krishna saw this, and for a moment his own Yogamaya potency, his internal potency, Krishna became bewildered. But his bewilderment was, these cowherd boys, they're so attached to me. They can't stand to not see me even for a moment. When we pass on the opposite side of a tree, for that moment that we're passing on the opposite side of a tree, it feels like 10 years or more. And then when I go on the other side of the tree, then they're okay again, but they're feeling such separation due to attachment. What's going to happen when they enter this Aghasura demon's mouth? They can't see me. He was concerned about them and their feelings of attachment for him. But then Krishna knew what to do. He went inside the mouth of the Aghasura demon also. And as soon as the Aghasura demon saw that, he closed his mouth. Got him. Got Krishna, he's finished now. But what did Krishna do? He manifested Mahima Siddhi, because one of his names is Yogeshwara, the Ishwara of all mystic siddhis, and he expanded his body bigger and bigger. And as he expanded his body, the serpent expanded his body bigger and bigger, but Krishna got bigger faster. And eventually, the life air of the Aghasura demon left his body through the soft spot at the top of his head, and the soul, much like Shishupal, the soul of Aghasura left the body, hovered in the air, and as Krishna, when the cowherd boys were walking out of the mouth of Aghasura, that soul merged into Krishna's body. And witnessing all of this, was Lord Brahma. He just happened to come along at that time when the Aghasura demon was being killed. And then what happened next? The cowherd boys said, well done, let's go have lunch. So that's what they did. They went and had lunch. And Brahma was just amazed. He saw this little boy who had just killed the Aghasura demon now sitting around in a circle with all of his friends having lunch, just like an ordinary person after having killed the Aghasura demon. So here's the statement of the Bhagavatam. This is Shukadev narrating. O Maharaj Parikshit, Brahma, who resides in the higher planetary system in the sky, had observed the activities of the most powerful Krishna in killing and delivering Aghasura, and he was astonished. Now that same Brahma wanted to show some of his power and see the power of Krishna, who was engaged in his childhood pastimes, playing as if with ordinary cowherd boys. Therefore, in Krishna's absence, Brahma took the boys and calves to another place. Then he became entangled. For in the very near future, he would see how powerful Krishna was. So here's what Brahma did. He had a desire. What is the limit of Krishna's power? To test, he exhibited some of his power, mystic power. So what did he do? As the calves were waiting while Krishna was having lunch with the cowherd boys, they strayed away, eating fresh grass. And one of the cowherd boys noticed, oh, the calves have strayed away. And Krishna said, don't worry, you finish your lunch, I'll go bring the calves back. And so Krishna left. But when Krishna left, then Brahma took the calves and put them in a cave. And after he put the calves in the cave, he went back and Krishna was gone, and he took the cowherd boys and put the cowherd boys in a cave. He kidnapped the cowherd boys and the calves. And then he went back to the scene of the crime. Criminals do that sometimes. It's said, I don't know. And to see what was Krishna going to do. So Krishna was there. Here's that pastime with the calves are eating fresh grasses elsewhere. Here's Brahma putting the calves and the cowherd boys into the cave. And here's when he comes back, what does he see? Not just he sees Krishna standing there alone, bewildered. He sees all the calves and all the cowherd boys having their lunch. And he's bewildered because he just put them in the cave. So he goes back in the cave, and they're in the cave. And he goes back, and there they are having lunch. But then at that very moment, according to chapter 13 of Srimad Bhagavatam, what did Krishna do? Not only he manifested forms of the calves and cowherd boys, but for each and every one of them was a form of Narayana, surrounded by all the demigods, each one. And the personified Vedas, and so many of Krishna's potencies is described. All the Vishnu Murtis. Were surrounded by opulences, headed by the siddhis, anima siddhi, the mystic potencies. headed by Aja, and by the 24 elements for the creation of the material world, headed by the Mahatattva. Then Lord Brahma saw that Kala, Swabhava, Shankara, Samskara, Kama, Karma, and the gunas, their own independence being completely subordinate to the potency of the Lord, had all taken forms and were worshipping those Vishnumurti, for each one, all these different potencies. Atarkya Nija Mahimani. Atarkya Nija Mahamani means Krishna was exhibiting his inconceivable opulences. Now, what happened next? What happened next was, in a flash, they all disappeared. All the Narayan forms, all the Devas, all the Shaktis, all the everything, just poof, disappeared. And there was only one person left, that's Krishna, standing underneath a tree, holding in his left hand some yogurt and fruit, smiling at Lord Brahma. So what Brahma realized was, he wanted to see the limit of Krishna's opulences, which is without limit. Krishna manifested identical forms with the calves and cowherd boys. And there was another reason for that. That is, the mothers of the cowherd boys, of course, naturally mothers love their children. But they found that in addition to loving their children, they loved Krishna even more. And they desired to have a son like Krishna, along with their son. So knowing their desire, Krishna fulfilled their desire. Krishna manifested a form in such likeness of each of the cowherd boys that when they went back home, the mothers didn't even recognize, this isn't my child, this is a replica. They felt, this is my child. But then they found something amazing. Their love for their child grew like their love for Krishna. And according to the Bhagavatam narration, for 1 year, 1 solar year, the seasons passed and came and went, and Krishna was their son for 1 year. And same for the calves. Because the cows have calves, the cows desired, out of their love for Krishna, that Krishna would become their calf. Their motherly affection for their calf would be directed toward Krishna. They became their calves. And one day, when the cowherd men saw the cows grazing on the side of Govardhan Hill, and at the bottom of Govardhan Hill were the calves of those cows, the cows started to run down Govardhan Hill. I don't know if you've ever seen a cow run, but they do. Except usually it's like really slow. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. But cows sometimes run. They were running down the hill. And the cowherd men, with their sticks raised, were calling different signals. Stop running down the hill and graze up here. Don't go to the calves. But the cows ran and ran. They just ignored the cowherd men. But by the time the cowherd men got to the bottom of the hill, seeing the calves that were the forms of Krishna, and the cowherd boys, their sons, they were the forms of Krishna, they forgot everything. This went on for 1 year. By Yogamaya potency, they didn't even recognize that Krishna had gone, that 1 year had passed. This past time, because past time in the higher regions is longer than here. In that period of time that this pastime was experienced by Lord Brahman, the cowherd boys disappeared. By that time, the cowherd boys disappeared. Those manifestations of the calves, and cowherd boys disappeared. So when Brahma saw all of this, he was stunned. He paid his obeisances again and again to Krishna and starts expressing his prayers. That's the context. And his prayers, these first 8, we're going to be covering some of them, not all of them. How to understand the unlimited opulences of the unlimited Krishna. How to know the unknowable. And specifically because the potencies of Krishna are without limit. Our tiny brain is limited, and we can't understand that which is unlimited with the limited. So the message of these first 8 verses is, by the power of bhakti, one can know. When Krishna discloses, one can know. So very prominent are the various expressions of humility. There's Brahma standing before Krishna. There's Krishna with unblinking eyes looking at Brahma, left hand raised with some yogurt and fruit, because he eats with his right hand. So he holds the fruit and yogurt in his left hand. And here's the beginning of Brahma's prayers. Because of time, I'm not going to invite you to recite the Sanskrit, but we'll just go through the translation. He's speaking of he who has created this universe, has such capacity of knowledge and manifests the Vedas originally, directly from within his heart, says, my dear Lord, you are the only worshipable Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore I offer my humble obeisances and prayers just to please you. O son of the king of cowherds, because that's what Nanda Maharaj is. He's the Maharaj of the king of that area that their occupation is herding cows, the king of the cowherds. Your transcendental body is dark blue like a new cloud. Your garment is brilliant like lightning. And the beauty of your face is enchanted by your gunja earrings. Gunja is a certain kind of berry that grows in Vrindavan. And Krishna's decorations are of natural things, so he takes gunja berries and make gunja berry earrings. And peacock feather on your head, wearing garlands of various forest flowers and leaves, and equipped with a herding stick, a buffalo horn, and a flute, you stand beautifully with a morsel of food in your hand. So he's describing the darshan, the form of Krishna standing before him. So Krishna's mood in this particular circumstance is, why are you praising me like this? I'm a little boy, you're the Lord of the universe. Why are you worshipping me? Lord Brahma literally means that you are the greatest. You're the most powerful, most knowledgeable, all-knowing person in the universe. That's you. Why are you offering obeisances to me? So Brahma goes on. Neither I nor anyone else can estimate the potency of this transcendental body of yours, which has shown mercy to me, and which appears just to fulfill the desire of your pure devotees. Although my mind is completely withdrawn from material affairs, I cannot understand your all spiritual personal form. How then could I possibly understand the happiness you experience within yourself? So although I have all this credential like you're describing, I'm expressing, I don't understand you specifically, I understand this transcendental form. You appear in the world to fulfill the desires of your devotees, and you've just shown this amazing mercy to me, yet I can't understand your personal form, despite all this credential, and despite the mercy that you've given me. I desire to examine the extent of your potency. I desire to understand how you will react to my showing my power. In turn, you have shown such mercy to me by giving me a glimpse of who you actually are, of who he actually is. We know from Bhagavad Gita who he is. Aham sarvasya prabhava matak sarvam pravartate. He is the prabhava. He is the source of everything. Sarvasya. Matter and spirit and combination. That's the cosmic manifestation. Matter and spirit and the combination of the two. He is the prabhava. He's the origin of it. And it all comes from him. That's his position. So, therefore, he who manifested the calves and the cowherd boys can make identical calves and cowherd boy forms. No problem. Unlimitedly, he can manifest everything all over again and withdraw everything all over again. Because his potency is unlimited, because he's the source of everything and his potency is unlimited. To see that, the way that Brahma saw that, was beyond the capacity of his mind or his intellect to understand. How can one estimate something that is unlimited, which can produce unlimited entities, each having unlimited potencies? Well, the faculties that we normally use, they're limited faculties. The mind is limited, the intelligence is limited. Certainly the body is limited. So how are we going to understand the unlimited? It's a theme in his prayers, that is, he's pointing to revealed knowledge, or that which is the reciprocation of Krishna unto his devotee. We need a different process besides the Gyan process. That's what it's pointing to, the bhakti process. So that's this next verse. Very famous verse. Jnane prayasam udapashya namanta eva, etc. Those who, even while remaining situated in their established social positions, throw away the process of speculative knowledge, that's the jnane prayasa. Prayasa means endeavor or effort. So jnane prayasa is the endeavor for acquiring speculative knowledge. Those who discard that. Uddapashya namanta eva. And with words, body, mind, and words, offer respectful obeisances. Namanta eva. Offer all respects to descriptions of your personality and activities, dedicating their lives to these narrations, which are vibrated by you personally and by your pure devotees, certainly conquer your lordship, although you are otherwise unconquerable. Ajita becomes jita. The conquering, to know the unknowable is through the bhakti process. And the bhakti process requires, according to Lord Brahma, that one sets aside understanding, the attempt to understand transcendence by the speculative method, jnana prayasa. This verse was in exchange between the governor of Madras at the time that Lord Chaitanya was traveling. I mentioned he visited Tirupati. So as he was traveling in South India, he met the governor of Madras. In this painting here, that's the governor of Madras. His name is Ramananda Roy. And they met by the banks of this river Godavari. And in the evening time, Lord Chaitanya met separately with him, besides this public gathering depicted here. And there was this discussion between the two. What's the goal of life? Good question. What's the goal of life? And what's the means to achieve it? The college students I was with today, I said, please don't make this mistake. And whenever I meet with college students, I like to say the same thing. Please don't make the mistake of living your life being too busy to ask the question, what's the goal of life? Don't be so much involved in developing your careers, and then your job, and then your family, and then home and children and stuff, that at the end of your life, you still don't know what the goal of life is. And if you don't know what the goal is, you're not going to reach there. So, I didn't elaborate. I could easily do that. So when they first met, that was the first question. What's the goal of life? And how to achieve it. So both were very knowledgeable in scripture, so Ramananda Roy offered multiple options, some of our favorite slokas from Bhagavad Gita included. And Lord Chaitanya said, go further, go further, go further. And when he came to mentioning this verse, he accepted it. And the essence of it is, pure devotional service without any touch of speculative knowledge is the essence of perfection. That's what Brahma says. That's the verse that was being referred to as describing the goal of life. So, I caught you by surprise. We just discussed the goal of life. And the same idea is mentioned by the Hamsa avatar, one of the lesser known but important avatars of Lord Vishnu is Hamsa avatar. And as depicted here, Hamsa avatar spoke transcendental knowledge to Lord Brahma. And at the feet of Lord Brahma, there's the 4 Kumaras, his sons. And the essence of this instruction was, if we don't see the factual relationship between matter and the source of matter, Krishna, we're not seeing accurately. So here's the bank of the Godavari and the two having their discussion, Lord Chaitanya on our left and Ramananda Roy on our right. And the explanation was given. The Mahabhagavata, the advanced devotee, sees everything, moving and non-moving, but he does not exactly see their forms. Rather, everywhere he immediately sees manifest the form of the Supreme Lord. That is to say, within every living entity, there's the Supreme Lord is residing. There's however many of us are situated here in this room. There's that many manifestations of the same one supersoul. Let's say maybe there's 30, 35 people here. So there's not just 35 supersouls, it's one supersoul. One supersoul manifested in 35 of us. Same supersoul. And so while we're seeing different forms, different ages and different genders and different nationalities, there's one supersoul. And where the external covering is simply that, it's a covering of supersoul in the individual soul. The Krishna conscious person does not just see the tree, he sees Krishna present. So there's a big tree. We can certainly see the tree. You know, see how big it is. Down at the bottom there's some people with a little horse over by the river. It's a big tree. Now, although there's this big tree, there's the form of the Supreme Lord. It's His energy. We need to see the relationship, because otherwise it's incomplete understanding. The relationship of everything with the source of everything. This is a painting of Sanatana Goswami, one of the Goswamis of Vrindavan, followers of Lord Chaitanya. And he commented on this particular verse, this important Jnane Prayasa verse. He says that according to the Svetashvatara Upanishad, that you can't receive freedom without understanding Brahman. And if that's the case, then what about people that don't have the intellectual capacity to understand Brahman? Are they going to forever remain in bondage? And the answer is, by the process of bhakti, one can understand one's position and reality. So the bhakti process begins by hearing, just as we're doing right now, hearing from Lord Brahma. By the hearing process, we develop such a loving and trusted relationship with Krishna that He will say, I'm like this. You wanted to see me as I am. You wanted to serve me. Such a deep desire for so long, and I have tested you so many times, and you only chose me. Now, here I am. His dear devotee Brahma is seeing, and to at least some degree, understanding the unlimitedness of the person who he's seeing. Oh Krishna, oh Ajita, you're conquered by this path. Let me say more about this glorious process, the bhakti process, in contrast to Gyan. So these initial 8 verses is doing that, the contrast of bhakti and Gyan, and the unlimitedness of Krishna's form. My dear Lord, Brahma continues, devotional service unto you is the best path for self-realization. If someone gives up that path and engages in the cultivation of speculative knowledge, he will simply undergo a troublesome process and will not achieve the desired result. Makes a metaphor. As yatha, as a person who beats an empty husk of wheat cannot get grain. Similarly, one who simply speculates cannot achieve self-realization. There's only gain, there's trouble. So there's a photograph of wheat. When it's matured, it turns brown, and then there's a system of removing the wheat from the chaff. But supposing the wheat has already been removed, and you thrash the chaff again and again and again, what do you get? Nothing. Well, you get empty chaff, and you get trouble. That's what the verse is saying. Klishyanti, and misery. But no labhyate, no real benefit, because The grain is gone. So similarly, by a speculative process, one cannot get the desired entity, the desired benefit of knowing transcendence, knowing the personality and form of Krishna. So we're about 3/4 done. So the last 4 verses of these introductory verses of Brahma reads like this. Oh, Almighty Lord, in the past, many yogis in this world achieved a platform of devotional service by offering their endeavors unto you and faithfully carrying out their prescribed duties. Although such devotional service, perfected by the process of hearing and chanting about you, they came to understand you, O infallible one, and could easily surrender to you and achieve your supreme abode. So now this is making a connection between the designation of our ashram, so meaning most of you are grihastas, and some of the younger persons of the audience, maybe students. So, young male students, young female students, brahmachari, then grihasta, then eventually retired from active family duties, vanaprastha stage, and then eventually sannyas. So there are duties for each. Students have to study, and grihastas have to perform their grihasta duties, and so forth. But if you faithfully carry out your prescribed duties, this is the connection of the varnashram system, with the process of hearing and associating with these transcendental topics of Krishna, hearing and chanting Krishna Katha, chanting about you and becoming perfected by that process of hearing and chanting about you, those persons, meaning all of you in the assembly, our Brahma is saying, you don't have to give up your position, you stay in your position, but hear the topics of Krishna. Do your duties responsibly and hear the topics of Krishna. And by so doing, you can understand Krishna too. And take shelter of Krishna. That's his message in that verse. In contrast, there are those that don't hear the topics of Krishna and their devotion to Krishna doesn't awaken. Non-devotees, however, cannot realize you in your full personal feature. Nevertheless, it may be possible for them to realize your expansion as the impersonal Supreme by cultivating direct perception of the self within the heart. That's described in Canto 2, Chapter 2, Lord of the Heart, and how one can, by use of intelligence, understand there is Paramatma, or the Lord in the heart. But they can do this only by purifying their mind and senses of all conceptions and material distinctions, major, and all attachment to material sense objects. Only in this way will your impersonal feature manifest itself to them. So in the verse, I pointed out in the 3rd line, avakrityat, that's conceptions of material distinctions. Another word that's often used is upadis. So let's say, what does that mean? I'm a sannyasi. So that's an upadi. Or that's an avakrityat. Or your grihastas. It's an upadi or an avakrityat. It's not who you are. It's a designation, and one needs to act according to those designations. Sannyasi shouldn't do the activities of a grihasta and vice versa. If you don't earn a living, you're not going to be a very responsible grihasta. You have to earn a living. But if a sannyasi goes out and gets a job, earn a living, that's not the life of a sannyasi. There's something else so we carry out our duties even though it's not the ultimate identity of self, it's not the ultimate self-realization, but the path of self-realization requires duty properly performed and hearing Krishna Katha. And if we neglect either one, we'll be incomplete. And the very best one can get, if there isn't Krishna Katha, is impersonal feature. That's very rare and very difficult. Someone may talk about it, but not actually achieve it. In time, we're almost done. This is 2 more verses. In time, learned philosophers or scientists might be able to count the atoms of the earth, the particles of snow, or perhaps even the shining molecules radiating from the sun, the stars, and other luminaries. But among these learned men, who could possibly count the unlimited transcendental qualities possessed by you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who have descended onto the surface of the earth for the benefit of living entities? I mean, the point is the limitation of the empiric process. Now, it doesn't snow so much in St. Louis, but when it snows, let's just say, how many snowflakes are there in your front lawn? Good luck counting them, right? And what to speak of, in the city of St. Louis, or what to speak of in, the whole of the Midwest. And how are you going to count? Supposing you could count all those snowflakes. You can't. But supposing you had the capacity and you got a calculator out and you calculated them all. Still you wouldn't be able to know the limit of Krishna's potency. It's literally unlimited. Literally unlimited, not figuratively. Or beyond our capacity. It's just so, how to understand the unlimited? Not by the speculative method, not by the empiric method. But it's knowable. How is it knowable? It's knowable by the process of bhakti. This is a nice painting of Krishna speaking to Uddhava. And one of his messages is this one. Kam va dayalum sharanam vrajema. How shall I take shelter of one more powerful? That's Uddhava speaking to Krishna. Is another painting of Krishna speaking to Uddhava, with Maitreya in the background also hearing the discussion. See, outside of Vrindavan, Uddhava was most intimate devotee of Krishna. So intimate was he that Krishna sent him to Vrindavan. You know this pastime. Krishna had left Vrindavan. He knew that the residents of Vrindavan were feeling separation from him. So he sent Uddhava with a message. Specifically, it was a message for the gopis, I'm coming back soon. Just have a few more demons to take care of. And then I'll come back. I promised you I'd come back, and I'll come back. So he sends Uddhava with this message, dear gopis. And when Uddhava, this intimate associate of Krishna outside of Vrindavan, sees the mood of the resident of Vrindavan, he wants to stay in Vrindavan, but he is not qualified, so he wishes to undergo austerities for as long as it takes, that he could take a birth as a blade of grass in Vrindavan, and then the resident of Vrindavan may step on him and leave some of the dust on his grass head and get the benediction. That's his desire. Now, later, after Krishna speaks Uddhava Gita to Uddhava, Krishna departs, and who would come along in the forest of Vrindavan, but Uncle Vidura. Vidura was on pilgrimage, remember? He left Hastinapur when he was insulted by Duryodhana. He left. Not just because he got insulted. He realized there's no service for me here anymore. Duryodhana is impossible. So I'm going to go purify myself. I'll go on pilgrimage. And one of the places he went was the Vrindavan forest. And when he was in the Vrindavan forest, much to his surprise, there's Uddhava. Oh, Uddhava! What a surprise to see you here in the forest of Vrindavan. How are all the residents of the resident of Dwarka? He speaks many, many questions about Krishna and the residents of Dwarka. And then Uddhava says, many verses, 2 chapters worth of glorification of Krishna, and he speaks of who could be a better master than Krishna. Here's some proof. Here comes Putana, wanting to kill Krishna, but she was taking the role of mother by smearing poison on her breast, and with the attempt to kill Krishna. But because she was even imitating the position of mother, Krishna accepted her as mother, and he gave her liberation. He sucked out her life air, but she took a position in the spiritual world as an eternal maidservant of Mother Jasoda. Putana. So who would be a better master to serve than that person? Krishna, who overlooks all the bad things of Putana and just accepts she was ready to do some service. Who would take a better master than that? And he refers to Putana as the sister of 2 brothers. This comes later in this chapter. This is chapter 14. We're on text number 7. You have already, later in this chapter, you have already arranged to give yourself to Putana and her family members. She has 2 brothers. Sa Kala. So, in exchange for her disguising herself as a devotee. So what is left for you to give to those devotees of Vrindavan whose very lives and hearts are dedicated to you? So Putana came along, tried to kill Krishna, and he gave her liberation. So now we gave liberation to Putana. What are you going to give to the residents of Vrindavan? What's left? Beyond material existence. What's beyond material existence? So, the reference to her 2 family members are Bakasura, that's pictured here, and Krishna gave his mercy by allowing himself to enter into the beak of Bakasura, but Bakasura couldn't swallow him because he made his body big. But Krishna purified Bakasura, although he was a demon trying to kill him, by entering into his mouth. And the other brother was Aghasura. We already heard about Aghasura. So Krishna purified Aghasura by placing his feet in the mouth of Aghasura and gave him liberation. So what are you going to do for your resident of Vrindavan? And they don't have this asura spirit, they have this loving spirit in all the different rasas. And particularly the beautiful painting, an award-winning painting, but it depicts all 5 rasas in one painting. But particularly up in the upper left-hand corner, there's the gopis, and amongst the residents of Vrindavan, dearmost are the gopis, and the head of the gopis is the one wearing the crown in the middle there. That's Radharani. So there's the cowherd boys coming back from herding the calves and cows for the day. The gopis are looking on, seeing their beloved Krishna entering Vrindavan. So, almost done. Brahma declares, you have unlimited qualities, and each of them are expandable to an unlimited degree, yet the impersonalist does not and cannot realize these qualities. Try to conceive, this is an invitation to all of you, try to conceive of what unlimitedly beautiful means. How beautiful is unlimitedly beautiful? How attractive is unlimitedly attractive? How compassionate is unlimitedly compassionate, and so forth. Krishna's qualities are without limit. Last verse, very famous verse. I now wish to describe both the internal and external activities of bhakti. Tate nukampam susamikshamano. Very important verse. My dear Lord, one who earnestly awaits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds and offering the respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. Now, what I'm not doing is going through all this color-coded thing. The words in Sanskrit are in a certain color that correspond with the words in the translation that are of the same color. Like this, sa, daya, bhak, your rightful claim. So a little bit about this destiny topic. Each of us are destined for a certain amount of good karma, bad karma mix. And some people say, well, if everything is destined, then I guess we don't have to worry because we have to do anything. It's going to happen anyways. I don't have to go take my exam because it's already destined. Whatever's going to happen. Or I don't need to go to work. Or I don't need to cook the offering. I need to cook for my family because destiny. And if it doesn't come out well, you know, destiny. Some people think of that, everything is fated, and there's this cruel hand of fate that's got its grip around our throat, and it's not quite like that. We make free will choices, and when we make free will choices, it's a really good idea to know what to ask for. And one of the things to ask for is whatever the supreme dispenser of benedictions wants for us, because he knows best. A nice example of this is in the assembly of Prithu Maharaj, when he's becoming crowned the emperor of the world. As shown in the painting here, Lord Shiva comes, and Lord Vishnu comes, and Narada Muni comes. And when Lord Vishnu comes, here's what Prithu says in a prayer to him. Yatha chared bala hitam pita swayam. He says, as a father, not waiting for the son's demand, does everything for the benefit of the son. Please bestow upon me whatever you think is best for me. Father knows best, right? So, because fathers, loving fathers, they already know what's best for their child, and the loving child will say, oh, my dear father, whatever you'd like, I'll accept, because that's what's best for me. That was the prayer of Prithu to Lord Vishnu. You'll come to offer benediction, whatever you like, because you know what's best for me. I'm not placing before you, I want this, that, or the other thing. Two examples. This is a painting of a story from the 6th canto Bhagavatam. In the upper left, that's King Chitraketu. by his intense devotion, he's become the leading personality of Vidyadhara Loka. Not just a resident, but a king. And he goes one day to visit his friend. He comes to such a level of elevation that Lord Shiva is his friend. And he comes to associate and pay his respects to his friend. When he comes, he sees Lord Shiva surrounded by sages. There's Narad in the foreground and others, and he's speaking, and they're listening at his feet. But also on his lap is Parvati. And before even landing in his Vimana, he leans over the side and makes a remark. Hey, Lord Shiva. Lord Parvati, or Goddess Parvati, is on your lap. And you're in the presence of all these great sages. So, Parvati took exception. You don't understand the greatness of my husband. He's not a worldly person by any means. And so I curse you, you become a demon. He didn't mean it as an insult, he meant it as a compliment. Ordinary people would be disturbed, but you're not disturbed. That's because you're so great. Even Parvati's on your lap. And you're seating there in a public forum. But it's not, some worldly thing that you're involved in. That's not you. He was honoring him. But he accepted. And sure enough, he became Vritrasura and he went back to Godhead as a result. Long story. 6th canto. Here's Indra, having offended Krishna, sending torrents of rain for 7 days, trying to drown the residents of Vrindavan, but it didn't work. Krishna protected them all. So now he's coming to offer his prayers. So when we do something that's a mistake, even you're a good person, the exalted person, there may be mistakes. And we're responsible for our mistakes. And when those mistakes come, this verse, this last verse that we're covering this evening, text 8, very important verse. It's written by Rupa Goswami. This verse should be the guide of all of us. This is our only solace. What's that? If the devotee passes his days in this spirit, accepting whatever's coming to us for our past misdeeds, and not letting our mind budge an inch from the lotus feet of Krishna, you're going to achieve the kingdom of God. Certainly going to be promoted to the abode of the Lord. And Jiva Goswami comments, Jiveta in the verse. All you have to do is be alive, and be alive means alive in you're awake in your relationship with the personality of Godhead. So I'm going to end with that. And maybe another time we'll continue with Brahma's making his, after glorifying the bhakti process, he apologizes for his wrongdoing. And then there's more prayers in the chapter. But that's what's next. The prayers of apology. The Lord Brahma's prayers. Famous section, chapter 14. And some often quoted verses, even in the few that we went over. So I think we're ready for the lights again. There you are. Any comments or questions? Somebody would like to add something or discuss something? Yes?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for so nice class. You started with the context of goddess Lakshmi not getting entry into the Rasa Leela.
Yeah.
But I couldn't relate it that with...
What does it have to do with the whole topic?
Yeah.
It's the special mood of Vrindavan, which Brahma didn't understand also. The special mood of Vrindavan is sweetness. Goddess of Fortune's mood is Aishvarya, Vaikuntha mood. Awe and veneration, that's not rasa dance or the other pastimes of Vrindavan. They're playing like cowherd boys, jumping, playing leapfrog, playing tag, stealing one another's lunch. It's not awe and reverence. It's a different mood. Both loves are pure, no material taint, but it's different than the Vaikuntha mood. It's a sweetness mood. So Brahma similarly, he knows how to build the universe. That, build a house, or build a city, or build a planet. All the living entities within the whole universe. He knows how to build a universe. True. With all the details, intricacies. His knowledge capacity is, he's the dean of the university. But he doesn't know Krishna, showing that form that's standing before him. And that's his prayers. It's a similar. But he appreciates that through the bhakti process, it's possible. The unknowable is knowable. That's the connection.
Before text 8, Guru Maharaj, you mentioned that Brahma is going to explain internal and external or aspects of bhakti. There was a sentence in the PowerPoint.
What's your question?
So is that specifically relating to text 8? That the text 8 has internal and external?
Yeah.
So could you explain the external part?
Well, there's things that are happening around us. That's external. And how you respond to those things that are happening around you, external, is an external function or behavior or speech. And then there's an internal, how you process what's happening around you. How do you feel? And ultimately it rests on consciousness. What's your shelter? What's the place of safety? What's the place of well-being and contentment for you? Besides how you act and behave externally and respond. So that verse, text 8, is speaking of both.
Is it known what the real coward boys and calves did in that year that they were in a cave?
Okay, say it again.
Is it known in the Bhagavatam or someone else that what the coward boys and the calves did when they were in the cave for a whole year?
All it says is that by the Yogamaya potency, they had forgotten their situation, because when that 1 year passed, which was in Brahma's time, was a moment, but for the earthly time it was a whole year had passed, they forgot that they were in that situation. And when Krishna came and continued having lunch, they said, "Oh, you're so attached. You can't be away from us for a moment. Sit down and finish your lunch." Doesn't say. but whatever they were doing, they had forgetfulness. Because in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, 15:15, he's situated in the heart, Sarvasya Chaham Riddhi Sanivishto Mata Smritir Jnanam Apohanam Cha. So they got the Apohana feature, forgetfulness, influenced by Supersoul. So whatever they were doing, twiddling or, I don't know, they forgot everything. She wants something else.
But they're pure devotees, right? So why?
Why not? Krishna wants. What do pure devotees want besides what Krishna wants? He was reciprocating with the mothers. He was reciprocating with the cows and the bulls. He was reciprocating with Brahma. He was having a pastime to enjoy activities with his devotees. Lovingly. So the cowherd boys and calves, what do they want but to please Krishna? It's not suffering or punishment or they're sent to jail or something like that. Pastime, Krishna's pastime. Okay. Yes.
Maharaj, you briefly mentioned about the swan incarnation of the Lord.
Which one?
The swan incarnation.
Swan,
So,
Hansa avatar, right.
Please briefly describe because, and also give reference to where it has been mentioned in the Bhagavatam.
It's very little is said about it. There's a book written by Romapada Swami that describes the avatars. It's now printed by the BBT with commentaries that thick. And one of the things he says about the Hansa avatar, he's in a certain category of avatar, and very little is expressed about those in that category. And Hansa avatar is one of them. It mentioned that he appears, there's very little. He appears in Satya Yuga. His form is white, and he teaches the Vedas to Brahma in the form of a swan. I could do some research and see it says a few more things than that, but it's not much more than that if it's anything more than that. Very little, but it's one of the forms of the Lord. It's a lesser known form. It's not a Leela avatar. He's giving teachings. And other than giving teachings, we don't know so much. Another category that's not too dissimilar is Lord Kapila. Like after Kapila taught Devahuti, what did he do? We know very little. And one of the things that he did is he resided at the bottom of the universe because that's where King Sagara's sons went to find the horse, and they got incinerated. So that's something we know. He's at the bottom of the universe doing penance and austerity and meditation. And also mentioned, very little, but he taught certain other persons. Dattatreya is one of them. And some other names are mentioned of persons who Kapila gave instructions to. Without naming the names. Very short list. We don't know much. In all of the Puranas, not just the Bhagavatam. He's in that category of avatar. We don't hear anything about his consort because he didn't marry. Doesn't mean, but he has his potency. He just doesn't perform that pastime of associating with his potency, his internal potency. the Lord has internal potency. No description. Yeah?
Guru Maharaj, you were expressing this prayer, please bestow upon me whatever you think is best for me, O Lord.
Yeah, it's a nice one.
So I accept that that is a standard that I'd like to aspire for, a
Good.
pure platform.
Until then,
And the honest truth is, in my relationship with Krishna, there are still desires.
fine.
So I wonder if it's like, you know, by opening my heart thus to Krishna is like scratching an itch and makes it worse,
No.
or it helps me come to...
Everything needs to become purified, including desire. Akama, sarva kamo, moksha kama udardi, tivrena, bhakti yogena, yajeta purusham param. You know the verse. So, we take those desires to Krishna. And it's not that he's our order supplier. The relationship is, you have a big warehouse, you have big supply, I'm your devotee, and here's my requisition slip. Please fill it, and the sooner the better. Om Jai Jagadisha Hare. But these are my desires, and you know them already. I'm just disclosing what you already know. Our relationship is transparent. And most important to me is I want to become your pure devotee. So as you feel is appropriate for these desires to be met, please do so. And as you deem not best for these desires to be fulfilled, please purify my desires. Prabhupada taught us like this, you know, if my dear Lord, if you so desire, and then something. You know, specifically the prayer was when his health was bad. So, if you wish, you can pray, my dear Lord Krishna, if you so desire, please restore the health of my spiritual master so that he can continue to guide us in our activities of Krishna consciousness. So you can pray like that.
May I ask, if you so desire,
That's nice.
yes, at the same time it seems very hypocritical at this point.
Well, it's not hypocritical. You're not saying I don't desire, you're saying if you so desire, here's my list. And here's my priorities. And one day I'd like to get, it's sincerely true, one day I'd like to get on the other side of these desires. And not just because Lord Buddha says that desires bring suffering. But what I want in my relationship with you is, it's just one thing. You're the master, I'm the servant, that's it. That's Prahlad, which is similar to what Prithu is saying. Now, we want to get your preamble, I want to get to that one day, but right now I'm not there. Okay, so your prayer is something different. You can be something, some other expression. I have all these desires, please remove my desires. At least, some of them. And not all at once, please, because I might panic. But desire it binds us. Desire for the temporary, asat, trishna, thirst for the impermanent. It binds us to the cycle of birth and death and suffering. That's a truism. What Buddha says, that those desires bring misery. Krishna says, Bhagavad Gita. I know you don't like suffering. And you have the cure. You're the doctor with the medicine. Please administer the medicine so I can become free from suffering. Yehi samsparsha bhoga dukkha yonaya evate. Dukkha comes instead of sukha. When there's this samsparsha ja, or there's the contact of the senses with the sense objects in the bhoga mood, in the mood of being the enjoyer of the sense objects. Pow, right in the nose. Dukkha yonaya evate. There's the yoni, the birthplace of dukkha, is desiring enjoyment by senses contacting sense objects. Buddha got it right. It's true. It brings misery. But the desire is there. So let me purify my desire, connecting that desire with pleasing you, Krishna, and that's the message of Bhagavad Gita. Yad karoshi, yad asnasi, yad jahosi, dadasi, yad tapasyasi kaunteya, tat parashramadharpanam. Do that as an arpanam, a worship of Krishna. You have two lovely boys, and you love being a mother, and they love you. And so you do that for the pleasure of Krishna. That's fantastic. Not like, may I become one day, I don't care about my children. That's not even wanted, what to speak of, a goal. So, you do all those things in service to Krishna as best you can. To plead for the pleasure of Krishna. That's what we do. Okay. Thank you all very much. Very patient. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Up here next to me I have a couple of boxes of Mahaprasadam. Looks like I'm going to need them. There's a lot of people here.